Okay, welcome everybody to this evening's webinar on learning pathways from intern to CIO, which IT Masters, which is myself, Shane Murphy, and our partners from CompTIA. Zach Harvey will be here to co-present with me as well. And we shall talk about all of those things. Now, just for the next couple of minutes, while we are waiting for other people to, everybody to come in, I will just play a little bit of a video and that will keep us amused for about a minute and a half, and then we'll be back to start properly.
Overall experience that IT Master lecturers brought to each subject made their subjects tangible and relatable.
What appealed to me was that it was all designed for busy professionals. I knew people who had studied at ITM, and it really aligned with what I needed in my job.
Okay, let's get going effectively now. It's really nice that you could join us tonight in this warm Melbourne night. And I can see people are starting to track in. And yes, I'm apologies for the audio not coming through on that video. I didn't share the audio when I was doing it, but there you go. There are always tech problems with us techies. Although I'm not a techie at heart. I did a classics degree. There you go. Glad that you're all coming along, and we will get right into it. And I think what we'll probably do, I'll just give you a rough idea of what we're going to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit of an overview about the pathway concept. Then I'm going to hand over to Zach from CompTIA to talk about their course processes, how they build them, what the inputs are, their learning pathways, how CompTIA fits into the overall sort of industry certification competitive landscape, and a few other things like that. And then we'll go back to IT Masters Land and talk about how you move from industry certifications to postgraduate study as an objective, a little bit about the IT Masters difference, and then towards the end, we'll just talk a couple of examples about what this really means in practical terms, because credits and stuff sounds as boring as all get out, but the reality is it can save you a lot of money. Excuse me, I'm gonna have to have a drink. Okay, so let's get into the overview. A lot of you, if you've been to any of our videos or seen our website before, you will have seen a little diagram we have that shows your learning journey. And we're slowly modifying that because this year IT Masters decided to take a slightly different approach. As you all know, or you may or may not know, we have been involved with industry certification for a long while. We're one of the few degrees and courses around the world that recognizes industry certifications as part of our courses. A lot of other universities will try and teach you the industry certification is part of what they're doing. But we say, if you've already got the cert, we can give you some credit for it. And that's what tonight's a little bit about. So what we've got here is a pathway. You know, you join a company as an intern maybe, or you just fresh out of school, fresh out of uni, whatever it is. We run free short courses. We run those for a whole pile of reasons. We run them for people who are just starting out in the industry, got no experience whatsoever. And we run them for people who want to get maybe into study later on, but feel a little bit apprehensive about it. And it gives them a chance to try what's going on with online learning and how it works, build a bit of confidence in what you're doing. And also in the end, we'll talk about how you can earn a little bit of subject credit for it as well. So the free short courses can be worth about $4,000 in the long term if you play your cards right, and that's really not that hard. Then also we talk about industry certification. These are the things that you get as you go through your career because you're in the networking business and you need your CCNA. That's a core thing, so you can get hired for your job. And then you might go on, you might do a cyber specialty and do you need a security plus or a pen test plus, or all sorts of different things. You might have network plus along the way as well. So all of those industry certs, you need them to actually work through your job. But then when later on you think about, well, I'm getting into my career a little way now, and maybe I want to climb and do better things. I talk about climbing up the ladder, but I want to improve my income and improve my prospects. So maybe I need to go and get a postgraduate course. I may not have study anymore. Probably the majority of our students who enter our postgraduate haven't got an undergraduate degree that's relevant. They might have an undergraduate degree in another area, but they don't necessarily have an IT degree because so many people do IT as part of what they do. It's in the atmosphere. You learn it as you're going along. And so how you qualify is your CV can qualify you for entry to a graduate certificate level. And what essentially happens then is that we look at your CV and say, yep, you've got relevant work experience. We can put you in the grad cert. You do the grad cert, you go on to the masters. What then happens, and we'll talk about more tonight, is how you can actually reduce that 12 subjects down substantially by how you plan it and how you cost it out as well. The other thing with work experience we'll also talk about is ACS assessment. That's something to keep in the back of your mind because it's also probably one of the best investments you can actually make in your career. So I've blathered on about the overall journey. It's about us trying to say, hey, we can teach you stuff all the way along, no matter where you are in your career. Our average student, by the way, is somewhere in their mid to late 30s, has got a job, they've got a family, they've got all sorts of stuff going on. So all of our courses are based around the fact that we know you're really busy and you have to do things. But that's enough from me. What I'd like to do now is introduce Zach to come on board. Zach is what do we call you? The Regional Director of Sales or something for
Yeah, for
CompTIA?
Australia and New Zealand, yeah.
Excellent. Well, welcome along. I will press the button. So just say next when you need me to say next.
Sounds good. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, everyone. Great to be along tonight, and hopefully I can share a little bit about CompTIA and the role of the CompTIA certifications that's of value. So I guess starting off on the next slide, really just to give everyone a bit of a background about who CompTIA are. I'm not sure, some people may have heard of the CompTIA certifications, whether it's A+ or Network Plus or Security Plus or some of the other ones. But just to give you a bit of an overview of who CompTIA are and I guess our reach, we've in total certified over 3.5 million people globally. We are the #1 vendor neutral IT certifying body in the world, and including our vendor certifications, we're actually #2 behind Microsoft only. So we've got a lot of reach, and a lot of people put their trust and confidence into the CompTIA certifications. In the US, for example, 24% of all cybersecurity professionals have had a CompTIA certification. So I guess it's just a really good point to know that the CompTIA certs are used globally and at quite a high volume as well. So why CompTIA certification? So I guess some of the advantages of taking a CompTIA certification is that employees will learn the latest skills, and because the certifications are developed by industry experts and continually refreshed, you can have really confidence that the skills that the certifications teach you will be very relevant. Because of all of our certifications are very much based on performance-based training, it allows for that really hands-on, on-the-job learning, so that what you learn in the certifications you can apply on the job. And because we're vendor neutral, you can move between technologies. So what we really focus on is the skills and competencies needed to perform in a role, not necessarily a specific technology. So because of this, and the next slide just shows around why employers really value CompTIA certified IT professionals. So 3 of the main areas, and this is information that we found from when we'd surveyed employers. So one is around the performance. So CompTIA certified IT professionals will consistently outperform non-IT certified professionals. the amount of professional influence that you can have in your career, generally 30% greater influence than non-certified IT professionals. And the last one there is around the first time to promotion. So we find that CompTIA certified IT professionals are 50% more likely to get a promotion within a year of being hired than IT professionals that aren't certified. So both from an employee perspective and employer perspective, there's a real value from getting certified through CompTIA. So the next slide, let me talk a little bit about how our certifications are actually developed. So the core part of what we do from a CompTIA perspective is really the research and the data model. So a big part of what CompTIA does is look at the market changes. We collect millions of data points across field research through labor statistics. We also look at subject matter experts. We have a great team of subject matter experts that look at the specific job roles that are required in the tech workforce, but also how they're changing as well. And we model those tech roles to a taxonomy. Generally, what we've found is that about 30 roles are categorized equal about 90% of all tech positions. Now, obviously, there's some kind of terminologies that some organizations use that vary, but generally speaking, there's about 30 core IT roles that cover about 90% of all tech positions. So that's always our starting point, is really understanding what is the tech workforce made up of in terms of job roles, and how are those changing? What are the trends? And then so from there, what we do, if you move along to the next slide, Shane, is that we do what's called a job task analysis. So we work with an advisory group, and this is just some of the organizations that are part of our subject matter experts and our advisory group that looks at the specific job tasks and roles that are required in each of those job roles. And then from there, we map that out to create our certifications. So the next slide shows what we have in terms of our career pathways. So whether it's infrastructure, cybersecurity, or data and analytics. And then you can see down the bottom, kind of working left to right, we have our entry-level type roles, our early career, the more experienced as you're growing your career, and then our expert certifications as well. So you can see, for example, if I just highlight the cybersecurity pathway, we've mapped our certifications to the job roles that you would expect to be able to secure, whether it's early career or as you move on and become more experienced. And what that actually looks like for each one, I've got an example, the next one, which just shows, the next slide shows for a couple of certifications for Network Plus and Security Plus. As you can see on the right there, we have the specific job roles that this certification is aligned to, and what are the key skills and competencies that you need to be able to do to perform in that role. And so for each one of our certifications, we have this information all mapped out for you based on that specific job role. And so furthermore, we extend that beyond purely just the CompTIA pathways, but we also look at more broadly. And the next slide shows how the CompTIA certifications really do also, because one of the things we often find from individuals that have either done some certifications or are looking to do their first certifications is, how do the CompTIA certifications actually align to other certifications that are out there, whether they're other vendor neutral certifications or whether they're vendor specific certifications. So the IT certification roadmap, what that will show you is how the CompTIA certifications align where you are in your career and what domain that you're pursuing, and how you might want to layer on other certifications, how you may want to layer on other certifications that align with the current certification you might have, or another one that you're looking to do. I guess from a CompTIA perspective, one of the things, as I mentioned earlier, because we are vendor neutral and we really focus on the specific job roles, that our certifications are generally very valued because they are vendor neutral, and that you can move from one technology to another as you grow your career, you'll have those foundational skills that you need in each specific role. So this is a really good resource here to be able to share, and we can share this after the webinar as well. And it also works really well in terms of IT masters and the ability to get credits for all of these certifications as well, not just the CompTIA certifications.
We will no doubt talk to that in a little while, but this is a fascinating document. The first time I really looked at it was the other day, and it maps it out so well. You must be doing very similar things to what we do, which is looking in detail at each of the certifications that people ask us about, mapping them against your own certifications and against what else is going on in the industry, and coming up with equivalences. It's a great resource, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And often it's important that, you know, we collaborate with a lot of these other, whether it's the vendor neutral organizations or the other vendors as well, to ensure that they're not redundant as such, that they're actually complementary. And that's really important as well. So ensuring that, you know, as a tech professional is looking to advance their career, that there's a real kind of clear pathway that they can follow to achieve that.
Absolutely. And before I get on to a couple of questions from the audience, which, by the way, thank you everybody for putting your questions in the Q&A. The chat's not quite as intense as it sometimes gets, but it's great that it's in a separate box over there, and we'll get to that in just a sec. I was going to say, one of the things that's always struck me about CompTIA is that you actually came from an association background, didn't you?
Absolutely, yeah. So CompTIA existed, I think, for about 10 years before a certification or training was even considered. So it was designed to be an industry association that would really connect vendors with distributors and MSPs. So to really connect the entire tech ecosystem together. And so off the back of that, the industry, I guess, told us that one of the things that the industry needed was really that upskilling piece, and that's where our first certification came from, A+. Probably, I think it was about must have been nearly 30 years ago now, I think, and obviously we've built on from A+, and you know, A+ today is still as relevant as ever, but obviously the technology has changed, and with all our certifications, we refresh them every 3 years. They go through an 18-month development process. So you can be sure that anything you're learning in those certifications are very much relevant and up to date for the needs of the job role that you're about to go into or that you're currently doing.
Great. Before we move on, Shane Curry's been asking, is CompTIA more focused on technical aspects such as networking principles, firewall maintenance, or frameworks such as MITRE or CIA Triad?
Yeah, so it's really is the technical aspects of the role and the technical skills that that are required to actually perform in that role. So that is much more the CompTIA focus. It's a little bit different to, I guess, some of the other certifications out there. And as you can see, with the certification roadmap there, that there's plenty of other certifications and providers that will provide other type of complementary certifications.
Yes, on questions like that, Nima's asking, how competitive is CompTIA Security Plus, say, or Security X, and say something like CISP? They're saying that CISP is recognized by ISC2, who actually do provide the CISP certification. I didn't know that it was recognized by ASACA. ASACA have CISM, for example. Will these two bodies endorse CompTIA Security X? I don't know if you know the answer to that, but I would imagine the answer is probably no, because those two bodies endorse their own certifications primarily. But do you work together with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So it is the Security X and CISP is a different certification. It's probably at a similar point of your career, but the Security X will be much more focused on the technical skills that are required. We are effectively endorse our own certifications. So just as ASACA or ISC2 do as well. So yeah, we've got I can actually share some resources that show in a lot more detail how our certifications or Security X, for example, would compare to those certifications as well. So you can kind of get a bit of a like-for-like comparison, but they do fulfill different roles.
Great. Okay. Well, feel free to butt in along the way, Zach, as we go through the sort of more IT masters focused stuff, because we've been working, by the way, with CompTIA in one fashion or another for a lot of our 20 years. Zach's come on recently and we've been doing more stuff together, and that's what we'll talk about tonight. But it has been something that we've always recognized the value of CompTIA certifications, and it's important to what we do. So as we said in our little map before, you might have got some certifications and you're in your career, and you're thinking, well, what do I do next? Why would I do postgraduate study? That seems scary. Do I really want a master's degree? Why do I want a master's degree? Well, one of the reasons is that a master's degree is very well recognized. We haven't put any of the data on here, but people with a master's degree generally earn 8 to 12% more for a similar job role than people without one. It's not because people give you more because you got a master's degree. It's just happens to be that it demonstrates that you're capable of doing more. And organizations will often, as we go along now, as you move up the organization, will want a higher level degree. So postgraduate study is not special in that sense. Yes, doctorates doing research is another level, but postgraduate study via coursework, which is what IT Masters have always provided, is very much a continuation of the principles of industry certification and what we do with our free short courses. It's about trying to give you a strong, rigorous learning environment that meets your needs as a business. So what we did years ago is we came in partnership, and apologies if you've heard this stuff before, but we have a partnership with Charles Sturt University, who have been doing distance education since they started in the 70s. And we said, what if we do not only distance, but we do it all online? And this was back in 2002. So it was all on dial-up. And we used to mail out books to everybody. These days, everything is properly online, and COVID was actually not a bad thing for us because it made the industry recognize the sort of things we'd been doing for a long while. But our academic content, which is delivered by Charles Sturt, or the more academic side of it, is really good. And then on top of that, we have industry subjects, which are delivered by our what we call mentors, but they're lecturers who nearly always are working directly in the industry. So some of our mentors at the moment, somebody is a very, I think, a CISO at one of the electricity companies. Another one is a CIO at a shopping center organization, and other ones do various jobs in, all sorts of different cloud and other sorts of industry applications. So we had somebody who used to work for AWS working for us for a while. So we do try and get people who are doing those, who are, actually involved at the hard edge. What's the difference between CSU and IT Masters? Well, we're completely different organizations, but all IT Masters do these days primarily is work with Charles Sturt University to deliver these postgraduate degrees. Charles Sturt is a university, and we are their delivery arm. So it is a unique partnership. Most of the time now, if you speak to other universities and they have partners, you'll find that what happens is the universities provide the content, they write all the subjects, they write all the courses, and then their partners will provide like a building and staff to teach it. We're different to that. We do half of the generation of the subjects, we do half the generation of the courses. So it is up to us as much as Charles Sturt to go, hey, we need a new course. What are we going to do it on? And for example, we're looking at doing things like AI at the moment is on our agenda, maybe blockchain as well in the next couple of years. Who knows? The good thing is they're all TEQSA approved. They are full university degrees. We operate in a model much like CompTIA where the courses are under not constant review, but regular and sort of semi-continuous review to make sure that they're meeting the needs of students. And we are very responsive to student feedback. In fact, we will often take student feedback back to Charles Sturt about some of their stuff, and they will do the same to us. And we try and evolve and make sure that subjects continue to be relevant to people. Because one of the big criticisms, as you probably all know, is that, for cybersecurity, for example, businesses will say, degrees are great, but we need work experience. We try and get our degrees as close as we can to real work experience as well. And hopefully that's answered your question, Andrew, along the way. So yes, the idea is that we try and make success pathways for students from all sorts of backgrounds, because it's this work experience that gets you in, and the short courses and everything else, help you along the way. I will try not to make this too salesy. We'll just talk about what the facts are as well. So industry certifications, we have mapped well over 200 certifications from all of these sorts of people and more, AWS, Microsoft, you name it. And we do, on average, we've been doing around about 2,000 individual credit or eligibility assessments a year of people that say, I want a credit for this or I want a credit for that. It's quite an involved process, because if it's one we haven't done before, what we have to do is we look at the actual certification. We say, is the learning outcomes, how do they map against our subjects? How does the rigor of the course go? What do you have to do to pass it? All of those sorts of things. And then we compare them against our subjects. And if there's a good overlap, then the overlap will allow us to approve it. And then Charles Sturt actually approve it as well. So we've got a certification finder. What I'm going to just try and do is drag that onto my screen here. Everybody tell me if you can't see this. And I'm sorry, this particular screen is a very small one. So the cert finder is here. If you go to credit and then credit finder, that's where we go. So this searches for a number of different credits from all sorts of different places. And you can search by certification, by vendor, by course, and by the credit as well. And all you've got to do is, for example, here, I've just picked CompTIA up. I just press search. And then what we get is all of the different certifications. Now, what also happens though, is it's not just this, it says the Cert Data Plus, for example, our course that's relevant to, in this case, that's digital marketing, and the credit for the subject to which it applies. Now, a lot of certifications have specific course or specific subject application, and others like Server Plus, because it covers a wide variety of things, we give you this credit, which means that this can apply to any one of our ITM subjects from the IT Masters half of the course. They don't apply to the Charles Sturt ones. Sometimes these subjects, Charles Sturt ones, I think that one is, for example, but these ones apply only to the Charles Sturt, to the IT Masters part. And the reason we've got the same thing listed multiple times there is that they're different courses. So the Graduate Certificate in Computing Career Transition, the Graduate Certificate of Cloud, Networking Systems Admin, and Business Administration Computing, so an MBA. So that gives you an idea. You can see that we've certified quite a lot of the CompTIA ones, Project Plus, because we run a project management stream as well. But not only that, you can still get the credit into Project Plus can still give you a credit into this, because there are project subjects available, and in cyber, because project management we consider is a core learning discipline right across all our subjects, and we try and make it available as often as we can. Pen test is much more into either cybersecurity or into the Graduate Certificate of Career, because that one is a mixed bag that has a little bit of everything in it. And then we got Linux, which is in network systems admin against ITC 514, which I think is a Charles Sturt subject just by the name of it. As a general rule, ITE, I think I'm going to get myself in trouble. ITI 581 is a IT Masters one. I'm pretty certain that's basic cybersecurity. But you can see CISA is in there. Now, you will find every now and again, CSAP can give you a credit right across, both in ITI 581 and also the general credit. So it can credit you in two areas. And some ones will actually give you 2 credits along the way. Obviously, if they're more advanced, much more difficult things along the way. So it gives you just an idea. Anytime you want to look one up, you can just go to the website and search, and that'll give you a reasonable idea. If it's not on there, what you do is you email us and ask us if you've got the certificate, the certification, I should say. The other thing to remember is that we used to give up to about 10 years leeway on these. It really depends on if it's the current course. If the course has been updated within that 10-year frame time substantially, then we won't necessarily give the credit for it. You would have to have a relatively recent or current version of the certification in order to be able to claim the credit, which rule of thumb, about 5 to 6 years, somewhere in that range. But yes, I encourage anybody that's looking for credit and looking for the things that you might want, you can see that there is a lot of different things here on this list. We've been doing this for a long while. Some of them I have never even heard of. For example, Sherwood Applied Business Security Architecture does nothing for me. We've got some things from, particular universities at times as well in there, and they all get updated every time there's a new one comes along. We usually get a couple of new ones every year. And of course, we're kept busy with updating the old ones. I can see there's a couple of questions, but we'll just bear with me for 1 minute. And we'll go on to the next slide, which is about CompTIA certification. So one of the things we've been doing for many years is we've been giving all these credits for all the different certs, but we've never, never meant anything to us beyond that. We've just seen it as a really good thing to do because the people we deal with, we know are coming from the industry. What we're able to do now, though, is to actually offer the CompTIA certifications. You can buy the exam vouchers and also the self-learning materials, the Learn and Labs. It might be that sometime in the future, IT Masters may actually teach specific subjects based around certifications, but we're not doing that at the moment. We're just providing the stuff that's Learn and Labs and the exam vouchers. And because you're our students, what we're trying to do is give you a bit of an incentive to buy from us rather than from anybody else. Sorry, Zach. And so anybody that enrolls in a matching short course, so for example, we have a Introduction to Security Plus short course, which we did last year. So if you do that and just enroll, you'll get 5% discount off the list price. If you actually pass the short course, that jumps up to 15% because I think that's important. And it's a good encouragement to actually go through and pass the short course. There's other reasons to pass the short courses as well, apart from just learning about it. And then if you're actually an IT Masters postgraduate student, we give you 30% discount off the cost of the courses. At the moment, we've got Security Plus and Pen Test Plus are available today on the site. And there's also, when you go to the store, there is a form to fill in to get your discount. All you got to do is provide your student number or the course that you're in and your student ID for the course, or sorry, your email that you logged into that course with, because that's the way we can track you down and just validate it, and then we send it back. By the way, if you order stuff on our site, it can take a day or so to come through because there's a bit of manual jiggery pokery in the background. We have an e-commerce front end, but the back end is not quite as nice. However, the nice thing, and the reason why we're doing this now, we wanted to say we're going to offer all of these additional CompTIA courses in the very near future. In fact, we could probably do them today. We just don't have all of the back end in place. But yes, if you're interested in those, please let us know. Apply for your discount, and away you go. And again, all of them will have the exam vouchers and the Learn and Labs available for you. And these are special rates because as far as I know, and Zach can correct me, at the moment, there's no formal student discount available for CompTIA in Australia. There is on some of the overseas sites, but you can't then use the vouchers because they're region locked from my understanding.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
So yeah, we're trying to do the right thing right along the board, and for us, it's a nice little healthy thing. It means that we can genuinely really try to offer learning from somebody who's just starting out to somebody who gets to CISO. So keep that in mind as we go along. Now, I will ask a couple of answer a couple of specific CompTIA questions, or ask them before we move on to the other ways you can get credit and shorten your course. Is CompTIA Pen Test Plus considered at the same level as OSCP? I thought OSCP is a much more rigorous certification.
Yeah, so it is in terms of, I guess, the actual kind of pen testing element. The Pen Test Plus, it's both kind of at an intermediate level. OSCPs is probably a little bit more advanced. I guess one of the differences is that Pen Test Plus does focus on, or does cover, security consulting as well as the actual pen testing as well. But I think that was answered pretty well in the chat by one of the other attendees as well. But there's plenty of information on our website as well. So if you go into the CompTIA website and go into the Pen Test Plus certification, you'll be able to see additional information, have a look through the exam objectives and things like that as well to see what's fully covered.
Right. There's does CompTIA still provide second take vouchers? Now, we're not offering the multiple take vouchers at the moment, but they are available, aren't they, Zach, in some form or another?
Limited, yeah. So there are it's not really as much available as they used to be,
Right.
unfortunately. Yeah.
Okay. You can buy them. You have to buy them up front, don't you? You have to buy two at the beginning if you're unsure. Is that right?
So you can purchase an additional voucher after you've completed the exam if you need to do a retake. But yeah, there's very kind of limited bundles that will throw in an incentive. Some months we might have a special where you can get a free retake, but they're not as widely available anymore.
Great. I will answer some more of the detailed ones. I would ask if Haida Kasim and Misha could just bung their questions in the Q&A because I'll lose them in a couple of minutes. And I do want to get to those ones as well. And they're more general IT Masters ones. Just before we move on, there's a bit of a discussion being started by AMA about trying to find somebody who's going to employ somebody who is very much at the beginning of their learning journey and is unable maybe to, start getting certs and stuff because of cost and other things. And I think that's a more general industry issue at the moment. It is widespread. I've run into, a number of graduates, for example, even from our courses who have done very well, but find it difficult to get the job that they would like when they are, they're trying to get a high area job and they're just coming in the industry, so they don't have any hands-on experience. That is something in general that is hard to do. IT Masters does have an internship subject. At the moment, though, it doesn't operate in cybersecurity, and we're looking to see how we could manage to do that because that may be one of the ways forward. The subject would actually form part of your, say, master's degree. You would get placement for 3 months in a business, and that would give you a little bit of experience. And on top of that, it might actually, those businesses that do those things and host interns and that usually are looking for staff in the long term. So we're hoping that that might work out. Our parent company, ECA, actually have a number of internship programs running. We're trying to get one going for cyber specifically because we do see a very big gap in the industry there, and we'd like to help out because it's good for us, it's good for our students, it's good for everybody. Hopefully that answers a little bit of what you're talking about, Amy. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about other credits, and there's different sorts of credit questions coming up. Just so that you are aware, if you pass 3 or more of our free short courses, and not all of them are eligible, quite a lot of them are, but not all of them are. So make sure they're eligible ones and send us the certs or send us the enrollment details, and then we will actually give you a credit for one of our industry electives. Again, it's only against the IT Master subjects, but it's still, that's effectively a $4,000 gift for just passing 3 short courses. Couple of reasons why we do that. We want to encourage you to do the short courses. We want to encourage you to do more. Also, to be honest, a lot of people sit the short courses, don't bother sitting the exams. We think it's valuable if you do sit the exams and get the learning. And the content that's in it is 9 times out of 10 either similar to or parallel to course subject content anyway. So if you do 3 cybersecurity ones, then you could easily do, you might be able to get a credit, for example, for against ITI 581 and skip doing cybersecurity fundamentals because you've already done a few short courses on it. So just keep that in mind. That is a really good way. How do you know which ones are eligible for a unit credit? The ones that aren't actually stated on the course itself. There's only about 3 or 4 that aren't out of the 50. Nearly all of them are, and the ones that aren't are more generic ones, or things like IT Basics is not. IT Basics is the ones that specifically aren't because they're seen as not being postgraduate level in the first place. Although some of the material that's in them is, for example, covered in things like next-gen network security as part of the introduction as well. So short courses, don't overlook that as a way of saving some money. The other thing I just want to allude to very quickly is ACS certification. If you're not if you're a working professional in IT and you're not a member of the ACS and you want to study with us, it is really a good investment. ACS membership is not much, it's under $400. And to do the certification is also under $400. So you're talking, I think it's about $750 to $780 to do the certification and join. And once you've done that, if you become a certified technologist or in cyber, a certified cyber technologist, then that's one subject of credit. So that's $4,000 for $800 investment. Or if you become a CP, a professional, that's nearly $8,000 worth of credit. So it's very hard to find an investment that will reward you as well as that. It's rare that people don't get certified. It does happen from time to time, but usually they will try and let you know a little bit up front, like when you're first going through the process a little bit, because if you don't have much work experience, for example, then that wouldn't qualify you. And the way it works, that certification process is it's just a short interview where they ask you a series of questions about your CV and what you actually did in your job roles. And then they say, okay, that means you ran a project. That means you're at level X. You participate in a project, you're at level Y. You did this, this, and this. You're at all sorts of different levels. Zach, we don't usually use the raised hands, but feel free to interrupt.
No, sorry, that one was user error.
Okay, finger trouble. But yes, anyway, so I would highly recommend ACS certification for anybody that is studying with us. But also, just in general terms, it's a really good resource and it is a cheap membership. And it does encourage you to get your CP points as well, your PD points, professional development along the way. Okay, so there's more ways you can get credit. There is one other way, and my clicker is just not clicking. Oops, sorry. That was really delayed. Previous university study. Very early on, somebody asked, what's the difference between credit and RPL? The short answer is there isn't actually any real difference. RPL more strictly is previous university study, but most universities use credit and RPL pretty much interchangeably. I think Melbourne University has some other term. I've forgotten the name of it. But yes, anything you've done at the university, particularly at postgraduate level, will be assessed for subject credits. And it's the same as the certs. We match to your previous studies. It doesn't come up quite as often as some of the other things, but it is an important other way. Okay. Is this going to move? No. The other thing that's worthwhile talking about was eligibility and credit assessment. As I said before, our very experienced eligibility officer, Anna Lee, is able to work with you and talk about your work experience, your industry certs, and your eligibility to enter the course. So, for example, the sort of people that we would say are probably not eligible is somebody that's maybe been I think we had somebody last year that had a lawn mowing franchise and had not worked in any IT area whatsoever. So they really needed to have some level of exposure to IT. Even for the grad cert in IT, you need something a little bit more than an external job. But the grad cert in the grad cert in computing, career transition, is specifically designed to try and capture people that might have trouble. So very few people get turned down because most people that come to us have got significant work experience. Often they have as much work experience as some of our mentors because there's some really clever switched on people in our industry. And to be honest, many of our mentors started out as students in our courses and have stayed on with us or come back to work with us. So I would encourage you to go to the Am I Eligible and fill out the form if you've got any questions about stuff. And Anna will either email you or call you back and talk through what you need and do some mapping with you. You can also speak to our normal course advisor as well, but Anna is the expert in credit assessment. So it's worthwhile just keeping that in mind. Okay, let's cut to the chase. And this will answer some of the other questions that are here while we're doing it. So if you didn't have any additional credit options, for example, we would say to you, speak to our course advisors about how to structure your course. You want to end up, say, in a master in cybersecurity or master in cloud computing, for example. How do you get there? Because that's a $48,000 investment at full prices. What we try and do at the moment is there are still Commonwealth supported places. We believe they'll be around for most of this year, maybe not all, but most. It all seems a little bit up in the air at the moment as to what's going to happen. And they give you effectively a up to 70% discount on your subject fees. So if you did a grad cert in cyber, it's going to cost you $4,500, $4,600 rather than more like $12,000. Then what you would do is you would do a second grad cert in cloud computing, and that would give you again the same price rather than $12,000. And what then happens is you move towards the masters with those 8 subjects that you've done, and you get 4 more subjects that you have to do, but they cost a little bit less than full price because you're now an alumni, because you've got other courses from us, and you get 10% discount. So that means that just on that basis alone, overall, you can do a master's for under $24,000. It's like 50% saving. That's the way we've been doing things the last couple of years. CSU are happy with it. We'd much rather have you doing the course and saving a bit of money than not doing the course along the way. The other good thing about it is if something happens and you only get through 1 or 2 of the grad certs, then you still got pieces of paper in your hand as well that you can take and use for your job skills. Now, the other thing though is if you add in, and this is where it gets a little bit complicated, but bear with me and feel free to ask lots of questions. If you do the same model where you do the 2 grad certs, but you've actually done at least 1 CompTIA certification and you've done your 3 short courses, then you can reduce that down to $16,000 because essentially you can get another 2 credits there because you're getting a credit against specific subject against CompTIA cert, for example, Pentest Plus or Security Plus, plus you get the free short course credit from passing them. That means that you're only down for $7,200 when you get to your master's, and you're paying $16,000 for the thing overall. It can get a little bit cheaper than that if you've got more certifications. But in answers to what Paul was asking before about, is there a limit to how many credits? The answer is yes. So, and bear with me, I'll try and make this clear, but I know that it does everybody's head in. When you have a grad cert in cyber and a master's in cyber, they form a set of courses that go together. So when your 4 subjects from your grad cert count towards the master's, but they don't count towards your credit limit. And you have a credit limit for any master's degree of 6 subjects. 50% of it can only ever be credited. So what happens then is when you do this model here, where you do 2 graduate certificates, these ones they don't chew into any of your 6 credits, but this one does take up 4 of your 6 credits, which means that by the time you get here, you've only got 2 left that you can actually use. So you would only, 1 CompTIA certification and 1 free short course, or 2 CompTIA certs, whatever. The other thing you can do though, is you might want to do more certifications, or you may already have more certifications along the way, because let's face it, the certs do cost less than, $3,600 a subject. They may not cost less than $1,100. That's up to you to sort of figure out. But you might do your maths and decide that's the way to do it. And you might do another 2 or 3 certifications, in which case you could get rid of this part of the cost as well. And you can have up to 6 credits in the course, which means that you essentially would still pay for 2 subjects plus 4 subjects there. So the best case scenario is like an $8,000 sort of master's. Having said that, I don't know if anybody's actually ever achieved that, because the other downside of it, and I say this with all humility, is that if you're maximizing your certification credits, all the subjects that you will be crediting them against are the IT master's subjects, and we only are allowed to offer you 6 subjects in the master's. So we'd effectively be doing 6 Charles Sturt University subjects, more the academic ones. That's fine if that's what you want to do, but we find that a lot of people really like our subjects and want to do some. So most people end up, even if they've got lots of certs, only applying for a certain amount of credits against them. Also, I think you can only use them once. So if you do a master's in cyber and then later on you want to do a master's in cloud, if you've used the credit for a CompTIA cert in the past, you can't use that same one again, and you can't get a second free short course credit either. And it also, it doesn't matter if you do 30 free short courses, as at least one of our students has done, still only one free short course credit. So it gives you some ideas on the length and the ability of what you can do. That's pretty much all the prepared stuff. So I'm going to go into some questions now. I thank you for bearing with us through this, and feel free to ask more questions about this. But frankly, the experts on this are Anna and Ryan and Nikki, our course advisors and eligibility specialists, and they can take you through beginning to end of what you need to do. And it is really important to do because you might get credits here against subjects you actually need to sit or want to sit. So you've got to be careful about what credits you actually want to apply for, which is in some ways why the free short course credit or the ACS credits are really good, because they can go against any of the IT Masters subjects. So just, it's good to map that stuff out. And we have people that map things out 2, 3, 4, 5 years in advance. Russell's saying, how long after completing a grad cert can I still get the 30% discount? There's no firm decision. It's really about 12 months. It is best to get the voucher while you're current. I don't think you'll have too many problems later on if you just come and talk to us about it. It is very new, so we haven't done a lot of formal things around it. We were going to limit it to actually current students, but I don't think for people who've been out of the course for a little while that we would worry about it too much. So, yep, just I would go for it and get it. Much better to have it up your sleeve. And if there's a problem and you think you're going to be delayed, write to us and we'll give you an answer. Misha is saying, I'm starting with a grad cert of network security and doing 1 unit a semester. Can I sit a certification exam and get credit for later required units in the same grad cert, or only if I continue to the full masters? The credits can apply against the grad certs or the masters. We say to people as a general advice, leave your credits for your masters if you're going to go on to a masters, because the saving is $3,645 rather than $1,164. That's the only reason that we would say that's just practical. If you're only planning on doing a grad cert, go for it with the credits. Not a problem in the world. Do we have information on the reverse, mapping IT master's subjects back to certification exams? To some extent, yes. We used to, some of the subjects we did, and this is how we came up with the idea, just so you know, was that we originally started out running the subjects so that they would end up with people being able to do the certs. And getting the cert was effectively the exam. Problem was people didn't end up doing the exams very often. And so we had a lot of people that had unfinished degrees because they never got through to finalizing their certification. And so we decided to go back to doing university degrees and having the certifications as inputs into that, so that you weren't boiling your cabbage twice, as it were. So essentially, while we don't publish an actual map of that, I think if you went and looked at the credit finder and looked at it in reverse and looked at the list of subjects on the right-hand side and then mapped it back to those certifications, you know that there's a high overlap between those two. So it may not be absolutely everything in that subject is going to map to the certification, but it's going to be pretty close, because it's going to be roughly 80%. That's our benchmark. That's what we have to do before we can give you a credit. So I think that should give you some comfort and some security around that and how that works. Hopefully that gets you what you need. By the way, credits for Cert 4 in cybersecurity do nothing. They unfortunately are a TAFE level subject. So this is postgraduate. We don't usually credit undergraduate subjects either, unless they're really specifically organized. And Siddharth has also asked if our courses are accredited by ACS. Actually, our Master of Cybersecurity is accredited by ACS. So that is one thing that we do. Okay, I have got almost to the end. If anybody wants to ask some more questions, what I would suggest you do is have a look at our store, which I haven't put the store thing up there, but if you have a look at our website, the store is very visible. Let me see if I can pull that back up again, the little thing with it, and show you where the store is. Our website we built all in-house, so it is a very nice website and pretty easy to use. But if you want to go to the store, there's a little red button down here, which you can't quite see because everything's a bit smaller than usual. And that's to the store, or the store is actually up there in the corner as well. So you can go to the store and just click on that. At the moment, as I said, the store just has the Security Plus and Pen Test, but keep an eye on it. You should find that the other subjects will come up within about a week or two. And, block your ears, Zach, but I can confidently say that we are speaking with a number of other vendor providers, and there will be other options available on the store in the next 12 months. They will not necessarily have quite the same discounts available as do the CompTIA ones. The CompTIA pricing structure is really good for students, and we're doing our best to take advantage of it. And frankly, other vendors don't match that, but we would like to provide the best that we can possibly can. And there's some really good certifications out there. When we look at the people that do our courses, the certifications that come up are CCNA, all the CompTIA ones, CISP, CISM, a few Microsoft ones, a few Azure and AWS. They're the main ones that come up. So and a certified ethical hacking, and a few of those ones come up as well. But so that'll give you some clue as the sort of directions in which we're heading. We may or may not be able to provide all of those, but there are some things that are going to come up, and we're excited by those. So please have a look at the store, and feel free to apply for a discount. Are there any other final questions? Nope. Well, that's good. In that case, I would like to say, have you got any closing comments you would like to make, Zach?
No, just thanks very much for having me along. It's an exciting partnership with IT Masters, obviously such a respected organization, and obviously for everyone on the call, if you can fast track your way to a master's in IT, utilizing the CompTIA certifications, we think it's a great outcome. So thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed the lively chat as well. It's always a treat. So thanks very much.
Our chat is fantastic, I will say. But the one thing from the webinars, we don't usually post the chat. We certainly do post the chat for our short courses, but the short course video will be up on the website sometime tomorrow, and we'll also post it on our YouTube channel because we think it's a good resource to go back and have a look. If you want to share it with anybody else, feel free. Thank you so much for coming along tonight. I know it's always hard to take time out of a busy midweek schedule to come and talk to this stuff. So we really do try hard not to just BS. So yeah, thank you very much. Enjoy your rest of your evening, and we look forward to seeing you in a short course or studying CompTIA certs in the near future. Thanks, Zach. Thanks very much, by the way, for being
Thanks,
here.
everyone.